Chapter 9, Part 1 of More Love to Thee, The Life and Letters of Elizabeth Prentiss. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. More Love to Thee, The Life and Letters of Elizabeth Prentiss by George Prentiss. Chapter 9, Part 1, Stepping Heavenward. 1869. Death of Mrs. Stearns, her character, dangerous illness of Professor Smith, death at the parsonage, letters, a visit to Vassar College, letters, getting ready for General Assembly, gates ajar. A little past 3 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, January 2nd, 1869, Anna C. Prentiss, wife of the Reverend John F. Stearns, D.D., fell asleep in Jesus. The preceding pages show what strong ties bound Mrs. Prentiss to this beloved sister. Their friendship dated back 30 years. It was cemented by common joys and common sorrows in some of their deepest experiences of life, and had been kept fresh and sweet by frequent intercourse and correspondence. Mrs. Stearns was a woman of uncommon attractions and energy of character. She impressed herself strongly upon all who came within the sphere of her influence. The hearts of her husband's people, as well as her own and those of her children, trusted in her, and the whole community where she dwelt mourned her loss. She had been especially endeared to her brother, Sergeant, with whom she spent several winters in the South prior to her marriage. Her influence over him at a critical period of his life was alike potent and happy. Their relation to each other was, in truth, full of the elements of romance, and some of his letters to her are exquisite effusions of fraternal confidence and affection. Her letters to him, beginning when she was a young girl and ending only with his life, would form a large volume. "You excel anyone I know," he wrote to her, "in the kind and gentle art of letter writing." In the midst of his early professional triumphs, he writes, "You do not know what obligations I am under to you. I owe all my success in this country to the fact of having so kind a mother and such sweet affectionate sisters as Abby and yourself. It has been my only motive to exertion. Without it I should long since have thrown myself away. Even now, when, as is frequently the case, I feel perfectly reckless both of life and fortune, and look with contempt upon them both, the recollection that there are 2 or 3 hearts that beat for me with real affection, even though far away, comes over me as the music of David did over the dark spirit of Saul. I still feel that I have something worth living for." For years her letters helped to cherish and deepen this feeling. He thus refers to one of them: "I cannot tell how much I thank you for it. I cried like a child while reading it, and even now the tears stand in my eyes as I think of its expressions of affection, sympathy, and good sense. I wish you were here now. Oh, how I do wish it! But you will come next fall, won't you? And be to me the antelope whose feet shall bless with her light step my loneliness. But my candle burns low, and it is past the witching hour of night. Whether sleeping or waking, God bless you and our dear mother and all of you. Good night." My love loads this last line. To Mrs. Prentiss and her husband the death of Mrs. Stearns was an irreparable loss. It took out of their life one of its greatest earthly blessings. The new year opened with another painful shock, the sudden and dangerous illness of her husband's bosom friend, Henry Boynton Smith. Professor Smith was to have made one of the addresses at the funeral of Mrs. Stearns, but instead of doing so, he was obliged to take to his bed, and soon afterwards to flee for his life beyond the sea. To this affliction the reader is indebted for the letters to Mrs. Smith contained in this chapter. On the 16th of February, another niece of her husband, a sweet child of 17, was brought to the parsonage very ill and died there before the close of the month. Her letters will show how she was affected by these troubles. To Mrs. Leonard, New York, January 9, 1869. So many unanswered letters lie piled on my desk that I hardly know which to take up first, but my heart yearns over you, and I cannot help writing you. No wonder you grow sadder as time passes, and the beloved one comes not. I wish I could help you bear your burden, but all I can do is to be sorry for you. The peaceable fruits of sorrow do not ripen at once. There is a long time of weariness and heaviness while this process is going on. But I will not doubt that you will taste these fruits, and find them very sweet. One of the hard things about bereavement is the physical prostration and listlessness which makes it next to impossible to pray, and quite impossible to feel the least interest in anything. We must bear this as a part of the pain, believing that it will not last forever, for nothing but God's goodness does. How I wish you were near us, and that we could meet and talk and pray together over all that has saddened our lives and made heaven such a blessed reality. There is not much to tell about the last hours of our dear sister. She had rallied a good deal, and they all thought she was getting well, but the day after Christmas typhoid symptoms began to set in. I saw her on the Monday following, found her greatly depressed, and did not stay long. On Saturday morning we got a dispatch we should have received early on New Year's Day, saying she was sinking. We hurried out, found her flushed and bright, but near her end, having no pulse at either wrist, and her hands and feet cold. She had had a distressing day and night, but now seemed perfectly easy, knew us, gave us a glad welcome, reminded me that I had promised to go with her to the end, and kissed us heartily. Every time we went near her she gave us such a glad smile that it was hard to believe she was going so soon. She talked incessantly, with no signs of debility, but it was the restlessness of approaching death. At 3 in the afternoon they all came into the room, as they always did at that hour. She said a few things, and evidently began to lose her sight, for as Louis was about to leave the room, she said, "Good night, El," and then to me, "Why, Lizzie, dear, you are not going to stay all night?" "Oh, yes, don't you know I promised to stay with A, who will be so lonely?" She looked pleased, but greatly surprised, her mind being so weak, and in a few seconds she laid her restless hands on her breast, her eyes became fixed, and the last gentle breaths began to come and go. "Is the doctor here?" she asked. We told her no, and then Mrs. S. and the nurse, who were close each side of her, began to repeat a verse or two of Scripture. Then, seeing she was apparently too far gone to hear, Mr. S. leaned over and whispered, "My darling." She made no response, on which he said, "She can make no response." And she said, "But I hear," gave 1 or 2 more gentle little breaths, and was gone. I forgot to say that after her eyes were fixed, hearing Mr. S. groan, she stopped dying, turned and gave a parting look. I never saw an easier death, nor such a bright face up to the very last. One of the doctors coming in the morning was apparently overcome by the extraordinary smile she gave him, for he turned away immediately without a word, and left the house. I stayed, as they wished me to do, till Monday night, when I came home quite used up. Your sorrow and the sorrow at Brooklyn, and now this one, have come one after another until it seemed as if there was no end to it. Such is life, and we must bear it patiently, knowing the end will be the more joyful for all that saddened the way. I shall always let you know if anything of special interest occurs in the church or among ourselves. After loving you so many years, I am not likely to forget you now. The addresses at Mrs. S.'s funeral will probably be published, and we will send you a copy. Mr. P. is bearing up bravely, but feels the listlessness of which I spoke, and finds sermonizing hard work. He joins me in love to you. Do write often. To Miss Eliza A. Warner, New York, February 16, 1869. On coming home from church on Sunday afternoon, I found one of the Brooklyn family waiting to tell us that another of the girls was very ill, that they were all worn out and nearly frantic, and asking if she might be brought here to be put under the care of some German doctor, as Dr. Smith had given her up. In the midst of my sorrow for the poor mother, I thought of myself. How could I, who had not been allowed to invite Miss Lyman here, undertake this terrible care? You know what a fearful disease it is, how many convulsions they have, but you don't know the harm it did me just seeing poor Jenny P. in one. Yesterday I tried hard to let God manage it, but I know I wished he would manage it so as to spare me. It takes so little to pull me down, and so little to destroy my health. But I wasn't in a good frame. Couldn't write a Percy for the Observer. Got a letter from some house downtown asking me to write them Susie books. Got a London Daily News containing a nice notice of little Lou, but naught consoled me. In fact, I dawdled so long over H's lessons, which I always hear after breakfast, that I had not my usual time to pray, and that of itself would spoil any day. After dinner came two of the Prentiss sisters to say that Dr. Horatio Smith said Ava's one chance of getting well was to come here for change of air and scene. Would I take her and her mother? Of course I would. They then told me that Dr. Smith had said his brother's case was perfectly hopeless. This upset me. My feet turned into ice and my head into a ball of fire. As soon as they left, I had the spare room arranged, and then went out and walked till dark to cool off my head, but to so little purpose that I had a bad night. The news about Professor Smith was so dreadful. Mr. Prentiss was appalled too. I had to make this a day of rest, not daring to work after such a night. Got up at 7 or so, took my bath, rung the bell for prayers at 20 minutes of 8. After breakfast heard H's lessons, then read the 20th chapter of Matthew. Mused long on Christ's coming to minister, not to be ministered unto. Prayed for poor Mrs. Smith and a good many weary souls, and felt a little bit better. Then went down to Randolph's at the request of a lady, who wanted him to sell some books she had got up for a benevolent object. He said he'd take 12. Then to the Smiths, burdened with my sad secret. Got home tired and depressed. Tried to get to sleep and couldn't. Tried to read and couldn't. At last they came with a sick girl, and one look at the poor half-fainting child and her mother's "Nobody in the world but you would have let us come," made them welcome, and I have rejoiced ever since that God let them come. One of the first things they said took my worst burden off my back. The whole story about Professor Smith was a dream. Can you conceive my relief? We had dinner. Ava ate more than she had done for a long time. We had a long talk with her mother after dinner. Then I went up to the sick room and stayed an hour or so. Then had a call. Then ran out to carry a book to a widowed lady that I hoped would comfort her. Then home and with Ava till tea-time. Then had some comfort in laying all these cares and interests in those loving arms that are always so ready to take them in. I enjoy praying in the morning best, however, perhaps because less tired, but sometimes I think it is owing to a sort of night preparation for it. I mean in the wakeful times of night and early morning. Wednesday, the 17th. While I was writing the above, all the Brooklyn Prentisses went to bed, and we New York Prentisses went to the Sunday school rooms next door to a church gathering. There are 3 rooms that can be thrown together, and they were bright and fragrant with flowers, most of which the young men sent me afterwards. Exquisite things. I had a precious talk with Dr. Abbott, one of whose feet, to say the least, is already on the topmost round. I only wish he was a woman. The church was open, and we all went in and listened to some fine music. Coming out, I said to a gentleman who approached me, "How is little baby?" "Which little baby?" "Why, the youngest." "Oh, we haven't any baby, and lo, I had mistaken my man." Imagine how he felt and how I felt. We got home at 11 p.m. And so ended my day of rest. I have 540 things to say, but there is so much going on that I shall defraud you of them. Aren't you glad? Have you read The Gates Ajar? I have, with real pain. I do not think you will be so shocked at it as I am, but hope you don't like it. It is full of talent, but has next to no Christ in it, and my heaven is full of him. I've finished Faber. How queer he is with his 3s and 5s and 6s and 7s. I feel all done up into little sums in addition. And that's about all I know of myself. He's bewildered me so. There are fine things in it, and I took the liberty of making a wee cross against some of them, which you can rub out. Miss L. sent me another of his books, which I am reading now, all for Jesus. To Mrs. Henry B. Smith, New York, March 22nd, 1869. We were gladdened early this morning by the arrival of your letter and the good news it contained. I had a dreadful fright on the day you reached Southampton. Mr. Moore sent up a cabled dispatch announcing the fact, and as it came directed to both of us, and I supposed it to be from you, I thought some terrible thing had happened. I paraded down to M with your letter, and she at the same time paraded up here with the one to her and the rest, so we got all the news there was, and longed for more. I hope the worst is now over. I've just got home from a visit of 4 days and nights to Miss Lyman. I enjoyed it exceedingly, and wish I could tell you all about it, but can't in a letter. She has turns of looking absolutely aged, and seems a good deal of the time in a perfect worry, I don't know what about. Otherwise she is better than last summer. I never saw her when at work before, and perhaps she always appears so. We had 2 or 3 good rousing laughs, however, and that did us both good. I did not know she was so fond of flowers. She buys them and keeps loads of them about her parlors, library, and bedroom. What a world it is there! I only wish she was happier in her work. But perhaps if we could get behind the scenes, we should find all human workers have their sorrows and misgivings and faintings. According to her, I have had an inquiry meeting once or twice. Believe it, if you can and dare. It was certainly very pleasant to get into such an intelligent Christian atmosphere, and on the whole I've got rather converted to Vassar. I've been greatly delighted with a present of one of my father's cuff buttons, which I well remember, and a lock of his hair. I haven't got anything more to say. Oh, Mrs. Blank left that on her card here the other day, and we called on her this afternoon. What a jolly old lady she is! Of course anybody could believe in perfection who was as fat and well as she. To Mrs. Leonard, New York, April 5th, 1869. If I should send you a letter every time I send you a thought, you would be quite overwhelmed with them. Now that Mrs. S. has gone away and some of my pressing cares are over, I miss you more than ever. We have had a good deal to sadden us this winter, beginning with your sorrow, which was also ours, and Ava P.'s death, occurring as it did in our house, was a distressing one. She was here about a fortnight, and the first week came down to her meals, though she kept in her room the rest of the time. On Tuesday night of the second week she was at the tea-table and played a duet with A. after tea. Soon after she was taken with distress for breath, and was never in bed again, but sat nearly double in a chair with one of us supporting her head. It was agonizing suffering to witness, and the care of her was more laborious than anyone can conceive who did not witness or participate in it. We had at last to have 6 on hand to relieve each other. She died on Saturday after 4 terrible days and nights. We knew she would die here when they first proposed her coming, but did not like to refuse her last desire, and are very glad we had the privilege of ministering to her last wants. For you I desire but one thing, a full possession of Christ. Let us turn away our eyes from everything that does not directly exalt him in our affections. We are poor without him, no matter what our worldly advantages are, rich with him when stripped of all besides. Still I know you are passing through deep waters, and at times must well nigh sink. But your loving Saviour will not let you sink, and he never loved you so well as he does now. How often I long to fly to you in your lonely hours, but I cannot, and so I turn these longings into prayers. I hope you pray for me too. You could not give me anything I should value so much, and it is a great comfort to me to know that you love me. I care more to be loved than to be admired, don't you? I hope that by next winter you may feel that you can come and see us. I want to see you, not merely to write to you, and get answers. I send you a picture of our nest at Dorset. Goodbye. To Miss E. A. Warner, New York, April 20th, 1869. I opened your letter in the street, and was at once confronted with a worldly-looking bit of silk. How can you? Why don't you follow my example and dress in sackcloth and ashes? I think, however, if you will be worldly, you have done it very prettily, and on the whole don't know if it is any wickeder than I have been in translating a dramatic poem in 5 acts from the German, only you've got your dress done, and I'm only halfway through my play, and there's no knowing how bad I shall get before I am through. I wonder if you were sitting by an open window, as I am, and roasting at that. I had a drive with A and M through the park yesterday, and saw stacks of hyacinth in bloom, and tulips and violets and dandelions. A willow tree not far from my window has put on its tender green, and summer seems close at hand. I've been to an auction and got cheated, as I might have known I should, and the other day I had my pocket picked. As to Gates Ajar, most people are enchanted with it, but Miss Lyman regards it as I do, and so do some other elect ladies. I've just written to see if she will come down and get a little rest, now the weather is so fine. Mr. P. has gone to Dorset to be gone all the week, and I am buying up what is to be bought, begrudging every cent, mean wretch that I am. I have looked through and read parts of Patience Strong's Outings, an ugly title and a transcendental style, but beautiful in conception and taken off the stilts in execution. I do not like the cant of Unitarians any better than they like ours, but I like what is elevating in any sect. I've had a present of a lot of table linen, towels, etc., from Dorset, and feel a good deal like a young housekeeper. I wonder how soon you go back to Northampton. How queer it must be to be able to float round. It is a pity you could not float to New York and get a good hugging from this old woman. We expect 250 ministers here in May at General Assembly. I ought to have spelt it with a big G and a big A. My dear child, what makes you get blue? I don't much believe in any blue devils save those that live in the body and send sallies into the mind. Perhaps I should, though, if I had not a husband and children to look after. How little one can judge for another. End of Chapter 9, Part 1.